but even at special events, do you want to just be, center of attention, just, switching the patterns of your garment in front of everyone? Von here, back with another episode of Fashion Innovation Feed News. Today's news, we will be chatting about the Primrose project ADOBE Max dress. Have you guys seen it? Have you heard of it? It has been making the rounds on Instagram, so I would be shocked if you haven't seen it. But just in case you haven't, here's a little glimpse into what it is. And it's pretty much just this interactive dress that has these different patterns that can be created via the actual Adobe software in order to then create these visuals. So I think there's a lot to really talk about here because firstly, I think we are just kind of going backwards with fashion tech because this dress for me really screams like 2003, just because, not in a bad way, but just because it's really paying homage to where this all began with fashion tech. It's really just about how we can simply add technology to garments and in a more literal way compared to what we're now seeing with like AI and AR in different ways to interact with the garments rather than just being on the garments. Although this one's slightly different because I think what's quite interesting about this one is that the interactivity comes from software such as Adobe After Effects, which you as a person who uses that can actually create these different patterns and put it on there and then, make that animation show up on the dress. So I think that's quite interesting in terms of, how people are working together, from the engineering side to the creative side. And also the sewing side, so the actual garment construction that was done. And just kind of looking into this a little bit more, I saw that Christine, the lady who's actually modeling the garment, was the one actually who sewed the garment as well. And she is the research specialist at Adobe as well. I think this is a really interesting take on fashion tech, just because really nowadays what we're seeing more of in the industry in terms of technology being adopted by the fashion industry is really just things that are more towards the end of the value chain compared to this is how the garment is actually being produced that we're now seeing in this scenario. So besides the fact that it's a little bit old school in terms of the concept itself, I think it is quite interesting in terms of what we are seeing because there are some sensors in the dress that do allow the interactivity between the movement of the individual and the visuals that show up. And then obviously if we look now at how this would be created, so you would take this on. You would initially start with something on Adobe After Effects, for example. You would have some sort of animation that you would have created on there. And then once it's created and you're happy with it, you will then put that into the dress. This is definitely hands-on work between the creatives and the engineers in order to pair that up really nicely and then actually put that into the fabrics or the garments and whichever material that they actually used to make the patterns be able to be visible and movable on the garment. A lot of people on the internet did have a lot to say about this dress, so let's have a look at some of those comments now. Sorry I'm late. My dress was charging. I like that, and I think that's probably what's going to be happening in the future with many things, or not. I mean, a lot of people thought by now we'll be wearing 3D printed garments, and we really aren't. Like, it's really not mainstream. Even in the fashion industry, many designers are still not going for 3D printed garments or even laser cut as well. It's not that common compared to what we did expect 10 years ago. But the design is so ugly. Well, this one, I just think it's simple. I don't think it's necessarily ugly. I would say if they did pair up with a real, fashion designer or, someone who has been working with garments, etc., maybe they could have come up with something a little bit more interesting. But I think what they do have is more of a starting point. And that's what a lot of people do in the fashion tech world. They have starting points and then they just build on top of that, really. So only the front changes? Yeah, I had a question about this. This reminds me actually of one of my teachers back in university when I was doing my bachelor's in fashion design. And she was always saying, whenever we're sketching ideas, we can't just focus on the front. There is also, are you going to be naked at the back and then you just only have design at the front? So I think here it would have been interesting to know what would happen to the back. Is this dress something that is functional, something that we can use when we are sitting down? And even in which scenario would you use this dress? I think that's one of my main questions about this dress, that you're not necessarily going to wear this obviously down the street to buy groceries. However, maybe at a special event. But even at special events, do you want to just be, center of attention, just, switching the patterns of your garment in front of everyone? Not so sure that everyone has the guts to do, to wear designs like that. But maybe for, a catwalk, definitely could work for that. That will be very interesting. Putting some innovation on the catwalk. Maybe for the next fashion week, we might see some of that. Or actually for things like Met Gala, where you do have that red carpet moment and you do want to stand out. You want to be a bit different from others. So yeah. What could be the possible malfunctions though? Yes, this one got 14.9k likes, that comment. And yes, this definitely would be a concern. If water touches it, how is that gonna, is that gonna electrocute someone? Especially with those sensors inside. I think it's better described as a textile and not a design. The design is just a burning, strapless, shapeless dress. The textile, however, is super interesting, and I can't wait to see what designers create with it. And this is exactly what I have been thinking about, how this could really turn out to be the starting point of what brands can see, what designers can see, and then partner with it, collaborate with it. So whether that is Adobe partnering with Gucci for the next catwalk show, I can definitely see that happening, or any other brands that are willing to go the extra mile for innovation. But on that note, let's see where this takes us. Are we going to continue seeing more of this type of innovation from companies such as Adobe? Or should we expect a little bit more of the interactivity between customers and brands from other innovations such as AR, AI, etc.? Only time will tell. I'll see you next time for the Fashion Innovation News. Bye!